If you are new to this channel and haven't seen any of my previous videos, I'm going to tell you from the outset, I'm not your typical F1 YouTuber who just seeks to people please to try and get clicks. This channel is about exposing corruption in the sport of Formula One. The 2020 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was fixed. It was categorically fixed by the entire sport, and this channel is proving every aspect of that. This video is going through David Croft lying to you, the fan, about the regulations of the sport, and what it does, it conditions minds. The sport lies to its fans. Many fans don't even know they're being lied to, but you'll start understanding through watching this video. I'm going to break down his 10-minute presentation into two halves. Otherwise, this will become an hour long and people don't watch hour-long videos. So I'm going to go through the first 5 minutes. You can see this video yourself. It's on the Skysports F1 YouTube page. It's entitled Explained, the FIA's Regulations and the Likelihood of Another Mercedes Appeal. So this video, you would think from its title, explains the FIA's regulations. I'm going to show you that it explains nothing of the sort and that David Croft is corrupt, 100% corrupt. The damage of this is that this video has been seen by an audience of 598,000 people. Over 500,000 people have watched this. 9,000 of people have reacted with a like. 6,200 comments. This is the damage that their actions have on the unsuspecting public. People that do not know that they are being lied to. So here we go. We're going to go through this presentation by Crofty explaining the FIA's regulations.
I've been waiting to speak to you for ever since I was watching this yesterday on-air post-reaction, which rumbled on and on. It still rumbles on. Have you talked about anything since?
No. I'd show you my phone and all the messages I've got from friends and acquaintances throughout the world, but we'd probably be here till 10 o'clock tonight talking about it. Everyone wanted to talk about the end of that race. What did you think, Jasper, from where you were sat watching?
From where I was sat.
So the so-called expert, we're 30 seconds in, the so-called expert, the commentator of the sport, is asking Mr. Chappie in the studio what he thinks.
Watching, it was one of the most incredible things I think I've ever seen.
Oh, I was excited by it.
And I think you said the same yourself as well, Crofty. I seem to remember you saying that in about a quarter of a century of commentating, this was potentially the most fascinating thing you had seen on the track. Is that correct?
I was there in 2008. Is that Glock when Lewis passed Timo Glock at potentially the last corner of the track to win a world championship? But I think this actually is head and shoulders above what we saw in Interlagos at that time. I've never known anything like it. Maybe we should have expected it given the way this season went. For Lewis Hamilton, utter heartbreak through no fault of his own to have that championship trophy snatched out of his grasp after putting together a storming race. But he was a sitting duck at this moment. With Verstappen on fresher tyres, he was always liable to mount a challenge. Lewis.
Okay, so we're 1 minute 25 seconds into a 10-minute long presentation. You talk about utter heartbreak for Lewis Hamilton. What you don't talk about is that in the last 10 laps of that race, you and Brundle, Crofty, didn't expose to the global audience, you didn't expose to them the prospect of us witnessing history. We'll go through the entire race and see how many times you mention the fact that as a viewer of the sport, fans could be on the verge of witnessing history, that being that somebody was on the verge of becoming an 8-time world champion. Something you failed to mention. So you failed to mention that in the last 10 laps for sure. And we'll see when the last time you actually mentioned it was when we go through that video. Now you're saying Verstappen was always likely to mount a challenge. Mount a challenge. Well, we'll enter into that a bit later on. But look at the terminology. He was always likely to mount a challenge on those fresh, soft tyres compared to 44 lap old. That's where you want to word it.
Have been on those hard compound tyres for many, many laps. He couldn't come into the pits behind the safety car. He would have given up track position. Red Bull would have stayed out. They couldn't take that risk at Mercedes because we didn't know if we'd get another lap of racing in. Now, Michael Massey, the race director, I think is a man very keen, and this was stressed in the steward's decision last night that the teams agree with him, to get racing to the line. If we have a...
So the video is about the FIA's regulations explained. Michael Massey is the sort of man, and the teams agree with him, that he will try and get racing to the end. Is that an FIA regulation? Are the teams agreeing with an FIA regulation? Absolutely not. The FIA regulations are a set of rules and procedures that relate to how that race is operated, and they relate to how you conduct a sport. It's nothing to do with a desire. It's a set of parameters. But this is how Crofty wants to explain regulations.
Been on those hard compound tyres for many, many laps. He couldn't come into the pits behind the safety car. He would have given up track position. Red Bull would have stayed out. They couldn't take that risk at Mercedes because we didn't know if we'd get another lap of racing in. Now, Michael Massey, the race director, I think is a man very keen, and this was stressed in the steward's decision last night that the teams agree with him, to get racing to the line. If we have a...
Michael Massey is keen to get racing to the line. Absolute irrelevance. This football referee is a kind of referee that's very keen to see a goal in a game of football. So if the game looks scheduled to be a 0-0 draw, the referee and the teams agree that he's one that would like always to see a goal. What's going on there? You can't do that. You cannot break the rules of the sport to manufacture an outcome. So it's an absolute irrelevance. You've not explained a regulation there, have you, Crofty? You've explained an opinion, a desire, and they mean nothing.
Late safety car. He's a man that, if he can possibly do it, will finish as a race, not behind the safety car. We finish races.
He's a man that, if he can possibly do it, will finish as a race, not behind the safety... Well, everybody will just apply the regulations in accordance with the regulations, and either you can or you can't. It's not what type of man you are. It's kind of, all you do is, if you're the official, these are the regulations, you apply them. It will either be enabled to be a racing finish, a resumption of racing, or it won't. It's not what kind of man you are that makes that possible or not. Utterly ridiculous. Oh, he's the type of man that will try to do that. This is the type of referee that will try to give you a goal. This is the type of referee that won't try to give you a goal. One of them referees is a match fixer. I wonder which one. Utterly ridiculous.
Get racing to the line. If we have a late safety car, he's a man that, if he can possibly do it, will finish as a race, not behind the safety car. We finished races behind the safety car before, but it doesn't look quite so special on the television, and it's not what the fans really want to see. But
it doesn't look very good on the television, and it's not what fans want to see. Oh, a football game that ends 0-0 doesn't look very good on the television, and it's not what the fans want to see. Which fans? Which fans don't want to see a 0-0 draw? Would it be the ones that they've had a goal? Well, they've had a penalty awarded against them, which should never have been a penalty, that the referee awarded in the last minute of the game, just so that they didn't get to see a 0-0 draw. The fans didn't want to see a 0-0 draw. Both teams didn't agree that they don't want to see a 0-0 draw. So the referee in the last minute just decided to give one of them a penalty, which wasn't a foul, should never have been a penalty. But the fans, it looks better on the television if there's a goal. And the fans want to see a goal. Which set of fans want to see a goal? Which fans don't want to see that goal. But you, Crofty, want to tell us, the fans, what we want to see. Condition the minds. Oh, you, the fans, you don't want to see that, do you? You want to be excited. You want to see some drama. No, 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 we want to see sport. We want to see authentic sport, not sport that has been fixed by the entire sport, and you, the media, validating the fix because that is what you're paid to do, to condition the minds, which is what you have done.
Was it fair on both sides? What transpired?
Asking the question, presenting this faux facade of balance.
After the safety car pulled away, Mercedes certainly don't think it was fair.
Polarizing fans. Oh, was it fair? Mercedes don't think it was fair. Ha ha, Mercedes don't think it's fair. Mercedes don't think it's fair. No. In accordance with the regulations. It's not a case of two sides of an argument. Red Bull think it's fine. Mercedes don't think it's fair. Red Bull think it's fine. No. It's not a seesaw of right, wrong, right, wrong. There's a set of regulations, a set of parameters that you are explaining to us. Is it right in accordance with them? Not a case of, oh, do they feel that it's okay? Is it okay?
On both sides. That's why they appealed under Article 48.12 of the sporting regulations. The safety car. When it's out, the lapped cars can unlap themselves, but at the end of
the lapped cars can unlap themselves. No, it's a requirement. When you deploy the safety car, there are a set of regulations, there are a set of procedures you have to go through before you can resume racing. That is a fact. Article 48 of the regulations in 2021, they've changed number now, but in 2021 it was Article 48, the safety car regulations. If the race director chooses to deploy the safety car to deal with a safety incident, prior to going racing again, you have to carry out set procedures to ensure sporting fairness to all competitors, because by deploying that safety car, you neutralise the race. All advantages between all competitors are completely obliterated, and you reset to effectively a start of race situation. So, when cars haven't been lapped, the regulation is that that safety car has to remain on track at least until the first place competitor is behind the safety car and all of the other competitors are lined up behind that first placed competitor. Then and only then can you withdraw that safety car. Article 48.12 tells you how to achieve that when cars have been lapped. And you do that by, upon the point in time when the clerk of the course declares that track safe, the cars that have been lapped get released, and then they are given at least a further lap of that safety car with which to catch the back of the pack, so that we've got the correct race order and all the advantages between all of the competitors are reset to zero. Then and only then can you resume racing. That is what the regulations are. That is the purpose of the regulations. These regulations are not just made up for no reason. They're not just there, oh, we'll make these words up, we'll pick them out of the air. Nobody knows what they're for. It's just some crazy shit, these safety car regulations. Well, there's a purpose. I've just explained what that purpose is. If an incident occurs in the race which poses a risk to safety, you have to make it safe. And what that does, that resets the race to a zero position. If cars have been lapped, this is how you achieve that zero position. For all competitors, they all count. Lando Norris was in 7th position. He was only 12 seconds behind Pierre Gasly at the point in time where Nicholas Latifi crashed. He was actually closer to, Norris was actually closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton. Because of the deployment of the safety car, Gasly gets the chance of disappearing off around the track, but Norris has to remain behind Hamilton. So Norris loses a lap on Gasly. That's not allowed. Hence the safety car procedures, the regulations. That's why you carry them out. But maybe I've jumped in too quick. Maybe Crofty is about to explain that to you, along with the other 600,000 people that he is educating about the rules of the sport in this Explained the FIA's regulation video.
Following lap, that's when the safety car should be back in the pits and we go racing again. That obviously didn't happen. You saw it.
So what was the purpose of that? Having to stay out on track and do, remaining on track for the following lap, Crofty? Are you telling people that? No.
Actually, on the commentary clip there, when Martin said, right, the safety car's coming in, there were lap cars still just going past the safety car at turn 9. Michael Massey wanted to clear the cars in between Lewis and Max out of the way so that the title challengers could have that fair fight. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But had he...
Michael Massey wanted to clear those 5 cars out of the way so that the title contenders, Lewis and Max, could have that fair fight. That fair fight is how he terms it. A fair fight between a car that had built up a 12-second advantage, that's on 44-lap old hard tyres, this fair fight now against a car that's on qualifying tyres. Soft compound tyres, which are pretty fresh, that are 2.5 seconds a lap faster than our old hard compound tyres, and Crofty wants to put this out as being a fair fight. Everybody knows who's going to win a race off over 1 lap between 2 cars in them conditions, but you want to call it a fair fight, and you want to say, oh, Michael Massey wanted to clear those 5 out of the way of that fair fight. Did he want to clear out the competitors out of the way of 3rd, being able to challenge for 2nd position in that race? But he held 3rd back behind 2 lap cars, so 3rd couldn't. Is that fair? Did he want a fair fight between 7th position and 6th position, able to fight each other on that lap? Because he didn't allow that, he left Norris 2/3 of a lap behind Gasly, when Norris was previously closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton. This isn't a final. This is just a league game in a league season. You apply the same rules as you do to every other game of the season. You wouldn't just clear every other car off the track at the first Grand Prix of the season and go, oh, let's just have a 1-lap race between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen and see who wins that fair fight. At the 8th race of the season, you wouldn't just dismiss all of the other competitors and say, oh, let's just see who wins out of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen over this 1 lap, over this fair fight. Wouldn't happen, would it? Because that is not what a Grand Prix is. They're not the rules of the sport. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2021 was just a Grand Prix, where you accumulated as many points as you could and added them to your season-long total. And the person who accumulates the most number of points becomes the world champion. It is nothing like a World Cup final with extra time and penalties and shootouts. It is nothing to do with that, but this is what they condition you, as in something different is with this one.
Waited the following lap, we wouldn't have got a racing lap in.
If we'd have waited for that following lap, we wouldn't have got a racing lap in. Which means what, Crofty? Which means it's a safety car finish, which means Lewis Hamilton is an 8-time world champion. A record-breaking 8-time world champion. I probably cut you off too soon because you were just about to mention that. So I'm going to let you rewind that and let you say that in full, Crofty.
Lewis and Max out of the way so that the title challengers could have that fair fight. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But had he have waited the following lap, we wouldn't have got a racing lap in. That is why that procedure, 48.12, wasn't followed. And Mercedes...
Oh, we wouldn't have got a racing lap in, so that's why he didn't follow the procedure. Oh, we wouldn't have got racing, so that's why he broke the rules. What? That's what you've just said. Oh, had the rules have been followed, we wouldn't have got that, so that's why he broke the rules. That is what happened. Had the rules have been applied, we wouldn't have got racing. So you missed the bit out about, so therefore Lewis Hamilton would be in champion. But we wouldn't have got racing, so that's why he broke the rules. And we got racing, and we got Max winning. So that's called fixing an outcome. That is called breaking the rules of the sport to facilitate an outcome. An outcome that you knew was going to be the way it was because you knew the conditions of those competitors in that state. Oh, one of the teams in this football match is winning 1-0, but I'm going to play extra time anyway. That team that's winning 1-0, I've actually sent 4 of their players off, so they've now got 7 men. But I'll give the other team another half an hour to see if they can win that game 2-1. Oh, that's fine. The crowd wanted to see it. Really, that's called race fixing. That's called match fixing. That's called breaking the rules of the sport to facilitate an ending. But Crofty, you're explaining the FIA regulations.
He's obviously incensed by that, went and protest with it. Now,
Mercedes are incensed by that. The entire watching public should be, but you're just conditioning them to accept it.
48.13 of the sporting regulations rather overrides the message about the safety car returning to the pits at the end of the following lap.
No, they don't. The regulations are a sequence of set procedures. They follow on from each other, one after the other. They do not override one another.
It says that once the safety car in message is displayed, it's mandatory then for the safety car to get out of the way, and we're going to go racing again.
No, that's not true, because things can happen whereby that message safety car in is given once the other procedures have been followed, and if a further incident occurs, that safety car will remain on track. There was an incident in one of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix a few years back, whereby during a safety car period, I think it was Romain Grosjean crashed his car during the safety car period. At that stage, the message hadn't been given for that safety car to come in. But had that have happened, had that safety car been given the message safety car in, and one of those cars in the safety car snake had crashed or broken down on track, requiring to be dealt with to, again, deal with the safety issue, then that safety car remains on track. You just go, oh, actually, cancel that. Safety car's not coming in, we're keeping it out on track. So it's not mandatory that once the message safety car in has been given, it has to come in. No, not at all. That safety car can be used at the discretion on the grounds of how it needs to be used. So nothing to do with its nature. Oh, as soon as you're given 48.13, oh, that just has to happen and it overrides everything else. Utter lies.
But what the FIA stewards also said, and Michael Massey was there to give evidence at the protest last night, was that Article 15.3, and I know this feels like I'm trying to explain the Champions League draw this afternoon, but it is a lot simpler.
He's trying to make out that this is a complicated, complex thing to understand, and it really isn't.
Trust me.
Right. Advert. Sorry, I'll try and just skip this as soon as I can.
Who you got?
Article 15.3 of the sporting regulations gives the race director overriding authority over the use of the safety car.
It gives him overriding authority over the use of the safety car on the grounds of safety and on the grounds of sporting fairness. It doesn't give him overriding authority to not carry out mandatory regulations. And I will explain in a second.
And that overrides 48.12, which is overridden by 48.13.
No, it doesn't. None of that is true. He's explaining regulations and they're lies. None of that is true. And I will explain in a second with an example.
So all you need to remember is that the race director can make adjustments and changes should he see fit. And that...
Okay, you're lying. Here is a couple of examples as what his overriding discretion is. He's used a safety car. The clerk of the course has declared the track safe. and all the cars are in a condition ready to go racing again. However, the race director himself might see something on the track that he's not happy with, or he might view the conditions not safe to go racing. So he might say, actually, there's far too much spray coming up off the tyres of the cars because we're in rainy conditions, and I think the visibility is dangerous. So I'm going to keep that safety car on track for a few more laps in hoping to clear a drier line, which will result in less spray, and therefore when we do get racing, the visibility is better, and therefore it's going to be safer. That is an example of the race director exercising his overriding discretion over the use of that safety car on the grounds of safety. Another example is, and this is what Massey himself actually did at Spain 2019, Brazil 2019, Sakir 2020, Eiffel 2020. He carries out the required mandatory regulations, which is 48.12. Safety car has been deployed. The track gets clear. He then does 48.12, whereby he releases the cars which have been lapped. He keeps that safety car on the track for the mandatory further lap of that safety car before it can be withdrawn. But he realises that those released cars are only halfway around that track and have not made it back to the back of the safety car snake. So Massey kept that safety car on track for yet a further lap to enable those released cars to fully catch the back of the pack. Then and only then did he withdraw that safety car. So his overriding discretion was to keep that car lapping on track beyond the mandatory regulation period of one further lap. He made it do 2 further laps to restore sporting fairness to those competitors. Here is the third example. This notion of overriding discretion, enabling the race director to just do what the hell he wants with the safety car. Think of this scenario. A competitor is leading a Grand Prix by 30 seconds. A second place runner has decided, well, they've got a big enough margin to be able to jump into the pits, go onto fresh softs, and just try and take the point for the fastest lap because they don't lose position by doing so. So the second place competitor does that. They get onto some fresh softs and they want to set the fastest lap in the last 2 to 3 laps of the race. The race director takes it upon himself to deploy the safety car, puts it out on track ahead of the first competitor. The second competitor catches up with him, and then the race director withdraws that safety car. And off they go racing, and the second place competitor now wins. Is he allowed to do that? He clearly isn't, because what you've done, you've fixed a race. That's what you've done. You have to carry out the regulations when you deploy the safety car. You can't just throw the safety car out on track for no reason. It has to be due to a safety concern. You then have to apply the regulations and go through those set procedures prior to the resumption of racing. Otherwise, you can use that safety car to fix outcomes in the example that I've just given, which obliterates the notion of just this freestyle shit of 15.3 and the race director being able to do what the fuck they want with it. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And this, Crofty, the expert of the sport, lying to the minds of people to condition them. Truly filthy.
That covers what Michael Massey did to let that race conclude. But there is a big question that needs to be answered. And I'm sure Michael Massey in time will answer it. That is why, when we've seen races this...
You're that sure that Michael Massey's in time going to answer it? That's not going very well, is it?
Season, Baku, albeit at a higher speed, faster part of the track, when Max Verstappen crashed, we had a red flag. And we had 2 laps of racing to the checkered flag after that red flag. Why wasn't the red flag shown last night? Would that have been the fairest way to ensure that we had 5 laps of racing to the checkered flag?
I'm going to deal with that in the next video because I don't want this one to go on too long. There's a simple answer to that you're lying about again. Right, that will do on this video. Once I've done the other video, I will what should appear in the left-hand corner of this video is a click to click onto that video to watch the second half of this one. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Make sure other fans of Formula One get a chance to see this, because you're being lied to. The sport of Formula One is lying to you all, and they're all doing it. It's a hype job.